This video is about change. The way things change is a really important thing to observe. And if you can observe change, you can start to minimize the amount of kind of resistance you face. You can work with those changing energies rather than against them. And one of the most amazing observations I've ever connected to was to see that everything in life is broken up into two categories. All the energy is two different categories. It's either yin or yang. And that basically means there's two opposing forces. There's wet and there's dry. There's fast and there's still, like changing in a fast way or real still and not changing much at all. There's hot and there's cold. Everything's two different extremes. In one way of saying it is it's all relative. And often we fall into the habit of judging these relative energies good or bad. But something simple like manure, like if you step in some kind of manure, you're going to be like, oh, it's disgusting. But if you take that same manure and put it on your garden, it's going to be a great fertilizer. So it's good or bad depending on the relative position we're observing it. That's why it's called relative energy. And another way to observe it is to break it into the four different elements. So you can have earth when it's really heavy and it follows gravity and it's hard. You can have water, which is soft but still heavy and still follows gravity and joins together, and that's very wet. Then you can have fire, which is fast moving, really hot and dry, and it kind of travels up and out. It doesn't follow gravity. If you hold something on fire, the fire will try to travel upwards. And air is the most light. It goes up, out, and takes up space. So the four elements, when we see them in the world, like the ocean is all water. Oxygen, the air's all up. The sky or the environment is all air. Fire is fire, and earth is earth. We tend to build things out of earth. It gives us something stable and hard and powerful to build from. So you can build like a mud brick house, or you can take wood and create a house out of wood. You can make it out of bricks. We can manipulate these elements to create what we need from those qualities. And we call them four elements when we see them around because they're separate. But those same four elements join together to create our body. Our body needs oxygen. We need to breathe every 2 minutes, unless you're a freediver and you can do some crazy stuff. But the average person needs new oxygen every minute or so. We breathe regularly. We also need water. We start to fall apart and die. We need food quite regularly and nourishment. And finally, we need to maintain a certain temperature. Otherwise, we get sick. We fall out of harmony. So the four elements seems like such a simple idea, but when you observe that everything is made of these four elements, and the thing that makes a life form is these four elements come together in a very specific way. They have to be in harmony. And that's another way of explaining how yin and yang is those four elements coming together, or those relative energies uniting for a purpose and a function. So yeah, I found that really interesting because I'm not water. I can't be, because otherwise I'd be the ocean. I'm not air, otherwise I'd be the entire sky. I'm not earth, or I'd be all the earth. And I'm not fire, or I would also be the sun. But when those four elements combine together, they become my body, and I am aware of this body, and I use this four element temple to interact with the world. It's a pretty cool way of observing it. And if everything is just energy, and energy is just changing or moving, whenever there's change or movement, we call that energy. Everything is that changing, moving power. And my body has always changed. I was a little kid once. I was like this tiny little baby. And I grew to be this level of this much water, this much earth, this much air, and this much fire combined together. And when you observe that everything is that energy, it starts to become clear that we are not simply that energy. we actually are the power to be aware and make choices. That's our true self. But taking this 4-element form as our self is where we create a lot of stress and suffering. And if you've ever had like a deep awakening in meditation, you can actually create a separation between observing power or the awareness ability or consciousness and all the information you can be aware of. There's a really famous like saying, if A is aware of B, A cannot be B. Same as I can go get in my car and go for a drive, get out of my car. It's my car, but it's not me. And this is my body, but it's not me. And your body is your body, but it's not your true self. And it may seem abstract when the first few times you hear it, but through training different like moving meditation systems like Qigong, Tai Chi, even Qian Kun. Qian Kun is another way of saying yin and yang. Qian is when energy goes up and out, and that's fire and air. It explodes up and out. That's also known as Big Bang. Takes up space and goes up and out. The opposite, Kun, is black hole, where all that energy is twisting in and down or joining together. So black hole pulls things in and down, or pulls things, and Big Bang or Tien pushes it out and open. And I was really like skeptical and arrogant when I first started connecting to these ideas, but the more capable of performing the disciplines and matching the moving meditation techniques, I started to connect to this deep, calm stillness. That deep, calm stillness is like going back to that essence, back to your awareness power. You're no longer rattled with all the changing energy. You're actually just the calm observer, observing that energy. And it's not an easy level for me to reach. I don't reach it often, but the more I practice, the more I train, the more consistently aware I become, the more calm and confident my life becomes. And it's funny, like the way I am now is I'm calm, confident, and that allows me to be more generous. But before I connected to wisdom, I wasn't calm, I wasn't confident, and I was always trying to get something from life. I was always living for this goal that would make me feel happy or content. But in reality, you can enjoy the things outside, outside your body, but you won't find lasting contentment there because everything is energy, so it will constantly change. You can't stop that. And the way things change is through a certain formula. In this universe, things appear, they develop or build, and then they gradually break down or get destroyed, and then they disappear. If you look at something like a house, if you wanted to build a house, you'd have to create the space. There's a big block of land you can build on. And then all the materials would come to the site. If you've ever done a renovation, getting supplies to that building site is half the battle. And once all the materials are in the space, then they get built or developed, and it slowly becomes a house. And then that house will sit there, but the weather and the sun, it'll just gradually break it down. So if you don't keep repairing it and changing it in a way that it keeps developing, it slowly breaks down. And then eventually it'll be grown over by trees and nature, or it'll be buried by something. It literally disappears. So this universe, everything follows that same pattern. It appears, develops, destroys, and disappears. Life forms also follow a similar process, but they are born, aging, illness, and death. But the sutra that explains Tai Chi talks really clearly about how to recycle and build energy in a way that stays in harmony. That yin-yang sign is actually talking about harmony. It's a deep wisdom, and I'll explain it more in another video, but for now, I just want you to understand that by training in a way that brings your body into harmony, you can reduce the amount of destruction and damage so you don't kind of die as fast. You maintain some kind of healthy harmony function. And that harmony state, when your body's in a state of harmony, your heart and your mind, they just go into a state of absolute joy. It's really nice. And a big part of what I'm trying to share here is that path, that wisdom, so you can also connect to it. But it's also just sharing the wisdom that helps me out of negative. Because this world is crazy, man. Like, if you pay attention to all the information bouncing around, it can be pretty stressful because it creates a lot of worry, but we don't actually have any solution to it. And, you know, you can't fix the outside easily. The outside is a lot of power, a lot of causation, a lot of different influences. It's much easier to start with something simple. And the way we start is by taking care of this body. This 4-element temple is ours to learn to harmonize. And in the process of harmonizing it, you actually kind of awaken a power that realizes there's nothing to get from outside. No matter what you get, you'll have to look after it. You'll worry about losing it or compare it to what others have. And then you'll still want something else. I do, at least. I still want other things. It doesn't matter what I get. I can work really hard for something and I'll straight away want something else as soon as I get it. That's because the energy that makes us want something is called desire. It is the power of wanting. It is not the power of getting what we want. So energy will always keep moving and changing. That's by definition what energy is. And the trick we fall into is that we have to get or hold or acquire or reach some position or get something out of life. And that keeps us trapped in this never enough greedy heart. And being trapped in greed, the definition of greed is wanting something to the point it creates suffering for ourselves or others. So if we're constantly trapped in that searching, there's no peace there. We will never find peace. But through meditation, you can observe and create a stillness. And that stillness is so joyful compared to constantly searching and chasing. But the trick of life is that these 4 elements combined together is our body. That trick is so well done that it's really hard to remain aware. Even though I know this information and I teach this information and I share this information a lot, my subconscious is still blind. So I still fall into the habit of having to get something or get something done. And this video is inspired by, I was reading this sutra the other day. I was in a really bad headspace and I connected to this sutra and it said really clearly, humans get lost because they worry about wealth and property. And that sentence must have been first spoken thousands of years ago, but I read it. And in that moment I was reading it, I observed, I was like, wow, I am frustrated because I'm worrying about my wealth and and property. I'm not proud, but I'm just being honest that we aren't that complicated. We have deep intentions that are driven by that greedy changing power. That changing, the world is changing. Everything is energy. All that energy changing influences us to be rattled and searching. And we search for peace in a constantly changing external world. It's not possible. It's always going to change. And we're always going to search if we connect to it. So the wisdom is in learning to create harmony in your body. The one thing you can control is the way we treat ourselves. And our body is like our antenna to feel this world. So if it feels blocked and stiff, we will feel blocked and stiff. But if you learn how to make it feel light, open, no tension, and you learn to move it in a way that is in harmony with gravity, you can build up a really joyful subconscious environment. And when your subconscious is in some kind of harmony, your heart and mind will also be in harmony. But our subconscious is the deepest layer of ourself. It's the automatic side. So we first need to take in wise ideas and we practice them until they become a subconscious ability. And Qigong and Tai Chi and Tian Kun are really not complicated movement systems. I mean, they're deep and they're wise and the discipline level is very high. But the idea itself isn't that complicated and I'm happy to share it. And I will share it over coming videos. But one of the best things we can do to make our life feel less, I guess, stressed and tense and frustrated, is to try to calm the searching, calm the nervous system. And sometimes just finding a comfortable position, I like to lie down and just slowly concentrate on bringing breath into my belly, like right down into the lower part of my torso, and fill my system up. That slow breathing system, it's not super exciting at first. Like, as someone who chases pleasure, it was hard to convince my consciousness to sit or lie down and just do some basic breathing techniques. But if I commit and I do 30 slow, timeless, deep, conscious nasal that timeless breathing is very different to where you're counting them and you can't wait to be done. I've done those ones too. That's not as effective. But if you can convince your heart to slow down and follow wise disciplines, it builds a power of concentration and becoming something more than your blind subconscious habits. So I'll share more of that in coming videos. But just to recap for today, everything is made of energy. And energy is when something is moving or changing. And the way things move or change is the type of quality or type of energy it is. And so there's many ways to break up energy into different categories, different labels for different functions. And it's important to know them so you can observe them. But one very simple way of explaining it is yin and yang. Yin and yang is when it's either heavy or light, wet or dry, hot or cold, fast or still. Yeah, yin and yang or relative, or the other way to break it up is 4 elements. 4 elements are: earth is the heaviest and really hard and joined together. Water is also heavy, joined together, but soft and wet, whereas earth is dry. So, and water can be like turned into steam and move around. It's a little bit more abstract, whereas earth is pretty consistent. It's like we live on the earth and it's very steady and it allows for growth. But water is more soft and malleable, but can also join together and be a wave to take out a whole city. So it's still pretty powerful. It's just a different quality of energy. And water can also be frozen and be really hard, like ice. So it's a pretty amazing substance if you observe it more deeply. And then fire is the power of fast changing, hot, burning. It consumes a fuel source and it needs oxygen. And it burns up and out. And air is the lightest. It spreads up and out and it takes up space. And you can't even see it. That's how empty it is. But it's there. You know it's there because it moves the trees, blows up balloons. Air pressure is a real thing. And these 4 elements, when we see them outside, they're separate. Ocean is water, bushfire is fire, the earth we live on is hard and the earth, and air is everywhere. But when those 4 elements unite together in a certain combination, it becomes a life form. And our body is those 4 elements joined together, and we are aware of it and we can control it, make choices with it, and interact with the world around us. So we are made of this energy, but we are not this energy. And it's mysterious, and I'll explain it more in future videos. But when you want to take time out to stop, observe, and breathe, and just calm your heart down, observe. Where does your awareness ability, where does the power to be aware start or stop? And where does the information that you're aware of begin? That'll bake your noodle. I like that one. It's a really nice meditation technique. And just practicing that is the beginning of not being lost by external information. Instead, you're actually creating an inner discipline. No more chasing, no more searching. Observe and follow wise idea, which is the breathing technique. Slowly in through the nose into the belly as much as you can. Slowly out of the belly, out the nose. And practice that regularly to reset your heart back into a more calm state. And I'll share with you some of my movement disciplines in the coming videos, because making your body match a discipline that is a strong wisdom to support the body against gravity, which is another constant energy on us. Gravity pulls down. So yeah, we need to be aware of what energy is influencing us, and then use wisdom and wise techniques and develop ability to harmonize that energy. Or when it is not in harmony, like if our body, we get the wrong temperature, we get sick. If we don't eat properly, we start to break down. If we don't breathe, we're dead like that. And yeah, we need to harmonize all this energy and harmonize our own internal energy, which is the first internal energy is the wanting something, always wanting or feeling like we need something. That is very unsettling, and it's only when you can observe that desire energy, where it comes from, what it's for, and then you can learn to guide it in a wise direction. So these are all perfect powers. None of them are bad or good by nature. They are all perfect. We just need to learn how to guide them. Like a baby, if you give a baby a knife or you put a candle near a baby, it's going to hurt itself. It's going to cause a mess and it's going to create suffering for itself. But if you give those same tools to someone who's aware of how they function and knows how to use them, they can be used for a practical purpose. And all this energy has a perfect purpose behind it. We just need to raise our level of awareness to be more perfectly aware of them. So yeah, hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to hit the like, comment and subscribe button, and whatever you're dealing with, wherever you are, just know that if our intention is to truly understand and be aware, wisdom will appear. It may not appear as quickly as we'd like. It may not appear as conveniently as we like. But if we're humble and patient, wisdom is always there. We can observe and figure it out. And if you need to, reach out and I'll answer any questions you have. But hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you're finding a way to create harmony for yourself and others, and enjoying your life. Because if we can't enjoy the moment's gone. We never get it back. And the future never comes. So there's no point worrying about a future and destroying this moment here. This moment, this present, I'm going live right now, and this is all we have. As soon as I let this moment go, I don't let it go. As soon as it's gone forever. No one can bring it back and change it. So worrying about a past is taking us out of this moment, and worrying about a future that may never happen is also not wise. But being aware of what causes we're creating for the future, that's wise. And learning to, it's almost like planting seeds now that will one day bear the fruit or the result of what we want. So build a body that works really well now in this moment, and it'll work better and better every future. Every moment it'll just improve. But if we follow a lazy habit to not do anything, things slowly fall apart. Things appear, they grow, destroy and disappear, and we are born, we age, go through illness and death. But if we are wise, we can stay in the development phase. Develop, keep improving, keep rebuilding. Don't fall apart, don't gradually destroy, then you don't disappear as fast. But that's a topic for another video. And like I said, the goal is to learn to harmonize and enjoy life right now. Because there's nowhere to be, nothing to get. Everything outside of us is just constantly changing energy. It will never be anything except that. And our true self, or our true essence, is the ability to be aware and make choices. We either make wise choices or we make blind choices. Wise choices release suffering and create joy for ourselves and others, and blind choices do the opposite. They create suffering for ourselves and others, and nobody wants that. That's what makes us equal. Even though we may look or appear or have differences, the things that I'm pretty sure we align on is we don't want suffering and we do want joyful existence. So I hope wherever you are, you're able to create a joyful existence for yourself. And I hope this wisdom reaches you and helps you in some way. Anyway, have a lovely day. I'll see you guys in the next one.